Hello, I'm author Shahbano Bilgrami, and I'm really excited to be here with you today. I wanted to introduce you to my series, The Adventures of Munna Man and Baby Lady. This, The Beginning, is the first book in the series. The series is about two regular little girls who live in upstate New York who travel every year to Pakistan with their mother. In Karachi, they have the most amazing adventures as the superheroes Munna Man and Baby Lady. Each book in the series is a different adventure, usually a mystery that the girls have to solve along with their friends and their cousins, Zainab and Zoya. There are 4 books in the series. The first one is The Beginning. The second is Pirate Sea. The third, The Auntie Brigade. And the fourth, Mini Madness. Now I'm going to read to you from the first book in the series. And in this book, sisters Dalia and Anya have no idea what's in store for them when they meet pint-sized bully Tinne Mia on a flight from New York to Karachi. All of a sudden, they have special powers that transform them into the superheroes Munna Man and Baby Lady. Not long after, their newfound gift is put to the test when they and their friends are lured on a treasure hunt that traps them in a sweet and sticky mess. The chapter I'm going to read you is about the plane ride from upstate New York to Karachi, Pakistan. Now, the plane ride from the United States to Karachi is extremely long, sometimes 14 hours long, and it's hard to while away the time when you're sitting in a plane. This chapter is exactly about that. It's called The Truth, the Whole Truth. The truth was simple. Airplanes are fascinating places. Imagine a small, closed, suffocating tube suspended above the earth full of all kinds of human beings. With almost 400 passengers, there had to be a lot of good people and maybe, just maybe, a few bad ones. Dalia and Anya counted themselves among the good ones. But who, they asked themselves, were the bad ones? They spent the better half of the journey examining the sleeping passengers to their right and to their left. They made several trips to the toilet. That was the tiny, stinky room several rows down with the hungry flush. That flush ate almost anything. The girls squeezed in together and experimented. Eventually, it choked on a box of tissues. Oops. There were lots of people to stare at in the queue for the toilets. A tired mother carried her crying baby. An elderly woman leaned on her walking stick. A man with a large belly and thick eyelids cleaned his glasses on his t-shirt. Nothing suspicious to report. On the girls' 10th trip to the toilet, Amma was the one who became suspicious. "This is it, young ladies. This is your last trip to the toilet," she said. "We're landing in an hour." "It's okay," Dalia reassured Anya. "She's just cranky. Keep looking. There has to be one bad person on this plane." They used their small flashlights to shine light onto the faces of sleeping passengers. As they reached the toilet waiting area, they stopped all of a sudden. Anya bumped into Dalia and nearly fell over. For there, in the queue for the toilets, there he was, the one bad person they had been searching for all this time. How did they know? Well, you just had to look at him to know that he was up to no good. In the next chapter, we learn a little bit more about the one bad person. The one bad person happened to be a boy. Of course, that was just a coincidence. It didn't mean that Dalia and Anya, being girls, picked him out to be the bad guy because he was a boy. No, not at all. That would have been mean. It was his behavior. Anyone could tell that he wasn't quite right. There he was, leaning against the toilet door, picking his nose. That in itself was suspicious. What was worse, he was taking the green, sticky slime from his nostrils and rolling it into a ball between thumb and forefinger. This he did on the slide, letting his left arm hang loose and slightly behind him. Dahlia and Anya watched as he pushed the ball of green slime against the toilet door till it was firmly stuck. "Ew," Anya whispered into Dahlia's ear. Dahlia nodded, face grim. Then they watched as the boy fiddled with the handle of the toilet door. The lady inside shouted, "Occupied! It's occupied!" Occupied, of course, was a fancy way of saying she was on the potty. Dahlia stood in front of the boy and scowled. She used her index finger to point to the red "occupied" sign. It came on as soon as a person went in and locked the door. If it was on, someone had to be inside. She didn't say anything because she was too polite. But if you could read her face, it said, "Don't you have eyes, mister?" The boy straightened up. He folded his arms across his chest. He tucked his snotty hand into the crook of his arm. He glared. Suddenly, a tubby lady wearing a lot of jewelry came up behind him. She wore a silky shalwar kameez and looked first class from head to toe. "Janu, is anything wrong?" she asked loudly, glancing at Dahlia and Anya. That was all that was needed. The boy changed in an instant. The girls watched as he shrank, his eyes big, his mouth pouty. He pushed his belly out and slipped his thumb into his mouth. Looking helpless, he suddenly let out a howl and fell face first onto the floor. Then he started blathering like a 9-month-old baby, banging his arms and legs. It felt like the whole airplane was shaking. Several air hostesses ran over to see what was happening. Janu, are mera beta, are these two?" And the bejeweled lady glared directly at the girls. "Bullying you, Janu? Are you girls?" she demanded menacingly. The air hostesses peered over her. Just at that moment, the boy, who announced he was Tinnemia the tantrum, grabbed his mother's jeweled hand and yanked her to the ground. Even in tiny form, he had enormous strength. Mrs. First Class let out a scream. It appeared that his secret weapon was the bite. Dahlia and Anya quickly scuttled back to their seats. Amma was asleep. She snored loudly through her glasses, which had fallen onto the tip of her pointy nose. She had missed everything. Great. Dahlia was fuming. How dare that boy frighten them? She patted Anya on the back. Anya was sniffling, her long-lashed eyes wet with tears. It was then that Dahlia began to think hard, her face screwed up in concentration. There had to be a way. "Anya," Dahlia suddenly whispered, "stop crying. This is our chance. We don't have to be afraid. We're stronger than that." She hesitated for a second, then blurted, her finger up in the air, "We're Munna Man and Baby Lady." And so, that's how these two superheroes were born. No flashing lights, no explosions, no spacecrafts dropping caped wonders. Just a simple decision taken at just the right moment by two perfectly perfect little girls. A decision not to be frightened. A decision to be strong. Now their adventures would truly begin. But first, Amma spluttered awake in mid-snore. She asked them to buckle up. Dahlia and Anya's stomachs told them the plane was slowly going down. They were about to land. Again, the girls fought over the one window. This time they watched as little twinkling lights, like stars, became a city. Then the city became a neighborhood, the roads like electric wires burning bright. The big city. I hope you enjoyed this little reading. Now, if you come along with me, I'll teach you a little superhero-related craft. So as you know, most superheroes wear masks. You can see Munna Man and Baby Lady with their masks. So we're going to make a mask today. What you need is cardstock or heavy paper, some scissors, a hole punch if you have one, some string or yarn, and any kind of coloring materials you have. They can be markers, crayons, paints. So I'm going to take the paper and fold it about 1/3 the way down. When you open it up, you have a kind of folded line, and you cut along the line with your scissors, trying to cut as straight as you can across the page. Then you take that paper and you fold it in half. And you snip a little bit down below where the fold is. When you open it up, you can tell that this is where your nose will go. And then you can shape the mask any way you want. I'm going to give one corner of it a little curved edge. Then, with your scissors, you poke a hole near the fold, and you may want to ask your parents for help because it's a little tricky. Then you cut out the eyes, and you can shape them any way you want. Then take your hole punch or a pencil with a sharp point, and you can make holes. When you open it up, your mask is ready. And now the fun part begins, because you can use your colors to make whatever kind of mask you want. So you can make a Spider-Man mask, a Batman mask, a Munna man mask, or a baby lady mask. Or you could imagine that you're a superhero and you can create an entirely different mask of your own. I think that would be the most fun of all. You can use whatever colors you want, designs. You can let your imagination soar. So once you've finished coloring your mask, you take a piece of string and double it up, cut it in half, make sure it's enough string so that you can tie it around your head, and then you string it through your mask, make a little knot on one side and then the other. So here are some examples of different masks that we made, and as you can see, there's no limit to what you can do. Thank you so much for joining me today for Storytime and Crafts. I do hope you'll check out the Munna Man books. They're available at Oxford bookshops everywhere and at the OUP website. See you soon!